So is there a time in your life where you had to basically defend who you are? I mean, like, you were someone was calling you outside your name or putting a label on you that you didn't accept?
You know, when I came through and growing up, I never knew what a faggot was, but yet and still I was called that. And then I found out that was a bundle of twigs, sticks tied by sticks, and I knew damn well that wasn't me. I knew that I was a human being. But to go through that and to survive it and to fight for my rightful place in being who I am, first of all, I am my mother's son. I am my father's son. I am the seed of my grandfather and my grandmother. So there's a history that I come from. So that's what I kind of like molded around me. I had 12 aunts, no uncles, until my aunts married. So that's the cocoon that I was birthed into, you know. Unfortunately, my mother and father never married. So there was another layer that, you know, the signifying cousins. Oh, you know, Carrie wasn't married when she had him. You know, all of that. So all of that is a part of the process. And then identifying as a homosexual male is another layer. And then being a Christian in the Christian church, that's another layer. So it was a whole lot of layers of stuff. And so through the years and growing up and becoming an adult and standing on my own, the principles that my family gave me, save a couple dollars, go to church, pay your tithes and offerings, those elements that still resonate in me today. That's the foundation for which I have come from. But I had to rake through to find it because I was only identified as a homosexual.
Exactly. I mean, for me, my experience, you know, growing up, I'm gonna tell you, kids are cruel. Kids are cruel. High school is like a battlefield. And I think for me, it was middle school and transition to high school where I start to really have identity issues. I always used to play with the girls and think of the boys. And so I didn't have a true coming out moment. I was always called faggot. I was called sissy. I was, he got a little sugar in his tank. That was always my experience. But I didn't run away from that experience. Like, okay, I'm gay. Everybody know that. Okay, tell me something I don't know. Like, okay, try something new. Like, I didn't shy away from being a faggot or being a homosexual or being gay or sugar in his tank. However you want to view that, whatever that looks like for you. Okay, yeah, I owned it. My mom said, whatever you do, be the best at it.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Exactly.
be that best bitch, be the best fat. But I don't own those terms as far as faggot. I will not call another homosexual guy a faggot. I don't say the word nigga. I don't care if you put an A or ER. Those are just terms I just can't accept because of how demeaning they were. And although you could say I reclaimed, for me, it's no reclaiming of anything.
I touch and agree with you in that. I think the thing that is so important that you identify in being a human being.
Exactly. That's right.
You know, and knowing who created you. And I mean, so I think that's where the essence of what has kept us. And then that piece that's often missing in our lives is the faith piece. We'll go to college, you'll get an education. You'll work on that body to have a fierce body. But we leave the spiritual part alone.
Exactly.
We take spirituality for religiosity. And they're two separate things.
That's why I said we are human. I mean, we are spiritual having a human experience.
Okay.
You know?
So, the same question to you guys. Was there a time where you had to defend your label or anything? And could you share with us the experience?
I feel like defending my label like my life. Especially with my family. I grew up in America. I'm first gen. My parents are immigrants. They grew up in Pakistan, so I feel like and they're very you know, my mom tries, but my dad, he actually doesn't even know. So there are layers to it. So I feel like, and I still live at home with my parents too. So like, I feel like I'm constantly putting on a face to be like, hey, that part of me doesn't exist. So it is kind of suffocating and exhausting. So a time where I felt like I have to defend my identity is every single day, I would say.
Yeah. And I wanted to echo that. It's and also what Tyrone was talking about, because it is just an accumulation of a lot of things. I'm black and I was raised a Muslim, and I didn't feel like a boy or a girl. And then there was also who I'm sexually attracted to. There was just a lot of layers that I had to work through. And I think for me, when I was younger, I would be called a girl, and that would really hurt me because I didn't feel like one. But I also only had girlfriends, right?
Okay.
I didn't identify with the boys,
Okay.
and but I didn't feel like a boy either, so it was very confusing for me. But coming into this identity of being non-binary, it has not only helped me be more secure in who I am, but it also made me more spiritual, because it made me feel a certain connection with myself that I had never felt before.
And I think I really resonate with the fact that discovering my identity has made me more spiritual.
There we go.
It's seriously, because I feel like all this time I've been denying this part of myself. Hence, so I follow like Islam, so I'm Muslim. So there was a lot of trauma also deep in that of like, oh, okay, I'm Muslim, but she's gay or she's queer, so she doesn't deserve it. So reforging that path for me and finding my faith and connecting with it on a deeper level, and also all these people, like, their idea is so narrow and so surface level, and I feel like my connection with my faith has just honestly never been better.
Right.
awesome.
You guys are leading me right into the next question. So, like, going through this journey of self-discovery, like, how were some ways that you guys took care of yourselves to like make sure you got through it? How did you take self-care? What were some of your behaviors or tools or things that you did? Like,
And that's crazy. Before I guess we started rolling, we were talking about the aspects of self-care, even in our professional roles. And for me, being a therapist and being a healing practitioner, I have to meet with my patients all the time about what it means to truly care for self and what those practices look like. For me, I personally believe that self-care should be intentional. So self-care is not, oh, I just woke up and I gave myself a facial, or I walked down the street. Like, what are you getting in the actual moment? How is it beneficial to you for that moment? Self-care is not something I should just, oh, I had a great day and it made my day go much better. No, it should be intentional. Like, I'm scheduling a massage every month, or I go to the movies by myself every 2 weeks. It has to be for me, an intentional aspect. Self-care is it's not something that should be happenstance. It should be intentional.
I agree with that. For me, there's several things that I do. I have a certain time that I go inside. There's certain times that I go into prayer. There's certain radio broadcasts that I listen to on a daily basis. For number one, for me, T.D. Jakes.
Yes.
I love him. There's another one that I listen to. Monday night, there's a radio station that a prayer line comes on. This is for African American prayer warriors throughout the city, and they come on. I intune myself on that on Monday nights. I intune myself with other things. And then there's a book. It's called The Daily Word. And that's something has nurtured me for all my life. As a child, my mother got The Daily Word when it was very inexpensive, and now it's still inexpensive. But it gives you a mantra for every day. Another one I would suggest to an individual would be Ivana Lansant's were acts of faith.
Yes.
Those things are things that feed you, not in a religious form, but in a spiritual form where you can take it and massage it into your spirit, and it gives you hope for tomorrow. It gives you a new vision for the next day. It gives you that you need, that is not religious, denominational, but it feeds the inner man, the inner spirit.
Beautiful.
I definitely agree with everything they were just talking about. I had to be very intentional about choosing me and reconnecting with me. Because of everything I went through, I've went through a phase of disassociation that was very long, and I had to learn to reconnect with my body. Um, I got into meditation and yoga and making sure to practice them every day, journal, and just intentionally, choose to reconnect with myself, and that has helped me a lot.
Totally. I definitely had a huge period of my life where I was just completely disassociated from my body, because I was just going and working through a lot of my internal homophobia, my shame, my guilt that I had been dealing with. Um, but honestly, meditation, praying, and music, the arts, singing, playing my guitar, all that stuff, like, really made me connect with myself. And like, I'm just thinking about my journey with like my own culture and like dealing with that shame and guilt, and then reconnecting with my culture through movies, watching Bollywood movies, listening to Bollywood songs, reconnecting with that, all that stuff.
I really feel like that piece almost took me out. What you said about the whole choosing me, like choosing yourself is a daily choice. And sometimes we get off kilter and we forget to choose us. And the whole point about being self-care, because it's for us first. Like I always tell people, fill you up first before you fill up anybody else. And so when we talk about the choosing, it has to be a daily decision, a daily choice.
It's a need that we need consistently. It is a consistent thing that we need to be the best that we are, or the best that we can be.
Yeah.
So you have to get that on a daily basis, intentionally.
That's why I said that whole intention piece.
Intention.
And my thing was that, like, this is the body that I'm in. Like, like for all I know, this is what I'm ever going to know. This body of mine. So, like, the most that I can do is be comfortable in it and be one with it. So that's why, like, that was very important to me to reconnect with it.
Did you choose this body?
That's what I mean. No, I did not.
Nope. So I don't have to be comfortable in it. I don't have so that's what, and I work with patients all the time, because I don't know if you guys realize, but did you know being gay used to be in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual as a disorder? As a disorder. So if I'm not comfortable with my physical being, I'm not choosing it. Like you said, I wasn't comfortable being a boy or girl or male, female, however you want to view it. But that whole aspect about the gender versus the sexual orientation, gender, who I feel like I am, who I am internally, as opposed to how people see me. That's what said. Some people are in their bodies and they don't ever choose themselves. They don't ever feel like I'm going to accept this being, this physical representation. That's what I said. You can choose or don't. You're not like, you don't have to. Whatever version of yourself is for you, then you create that version for you.
Well, that's kind of what I meant by that. Like, whatever I feel deep inside, like I wanted to,
internally. Who
like
you are, you accept.
like the essence of who I am. That's what I wanted to be in touch with.
Tyrone, you look like you were going to say something.
No, I'm just, to be honest with you, I am just so delighted to have this kind of conversation with folks that you kids, you young people, I know. I've watched you to be to where you are today. And and this generation who I'm just beginning to know as you embark on your journey. I mean, It is such a wonderful, wonderful place for me as an elder to watch the seeds still grow. That some seeds have fallen on fertile ground, and you all are the proof of it
Absolutely.
in each generation. So my hope is the fact that each generation conditions themselves to receive what is there for them, that they might thrive as well. That's my prayer.
Yeah, that is
And thank you for
beautiful to
paving the way
hear.
for all of us.
Yeah, it's the fruit of your labor why we all still stand here.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like, I'm able to sit here and say I'm non-binary and I'm this and that because people have come before me who have fought for that. So
Exactly.
Totally.
Okay. So, we can move along. I'm going to see. So we talked about a lot of things. A few things I want to reiterate or go into a little bit more detail. So we all had a coming out story. Like, what was your coming out story? Do you want to share it? Each of you take some time to share your coming out story for us. I'm going to start with you.
Okay. I don't really have like a full-on coming out story. The only person that I actually fully came out to before I decided that coming out was freaking stupid, was my sister. And I remember sitting on my bed and I was like, and she was like, why are you being weird? And I was like, I don't know. And then I started crying and I told her. And then after that, I thought about coming out, and obviously there's a privilege in being like, I choose not to, but also like I genuinely think entering a space um and feeling like I need to disclose like a certain part of me or like my sexual identity, like, oh, by the way, guys, like I'm queer. I just felt like straight people don't have to walk into a room and say, hey guys, I'm straight.
You're right about
Right.
that.
That's
So I was like, if you want to know, you can ask me, but I'm not about to come in a room and like be like, hey guys.
So I'm going to say it too.
I don't I don't think I've ever had a coming out experience. I mean, when we talk about coming out, I guess we look at the
Your gayness.
announcing, I'm fully accepting of who I am and I want the world to know. I mean, I don't think I've ever had that moment. And so I think I've always been this version of me. Like this I didn't always like it, I will say, because of the whole cultural piece, the religious piece. Also, but I've always been this version of me. I think coming up, my family didn't really accept it; they tolerated it, and so I didn't have to go through the hopes of being disowned or anything. But I think they tolerate in tolerance versus acceptance. That's a thing in itself. So I think they tolerated me, but they didn't fully accept me. They knew, right? Playing with my sister's Barbies. I had G.I. Joe, she had Barbie. I was like, oh, I want this one. And you play with G.I. Joe. I'm like, I didn't have that moment. Like I said, I always used to play with the girls and think of the boys. I think I had one girlfriend growing up. And that was it. But I can't remember. I don't think I've ever had a coming out experience. I've always just boom, I'm here.
Okay.
You know?
Jump back over here. How about you?
with me, I feel like I had to come out a lot of times to different
lot of
people. I had to come out as gay before I even knew that I was not exactly that and that it was something else.
I
Um,
see.
Yeah.
but for me, like I also got to a point where I do think that the coming out is important, but for me, like it was more important to recognize the like myself, like to accept who I am, and that was like the coming out that I had to like go through because I also had I had a lot of things about the way I was brought up that did not allow me to accept who I was,
Totally.
like the religious aspect, societal, and all that. So the most important part of it for me was to come out to myself and say, "This is who I am."
And I think that in general, for me, my personal experience coming out just always felt like it was for other people. It never felt like it was for me. The first time I came out to my sister, that felt very spiritual and it felt really real for me. But other than that, I was just like, I was like, why do I have to put myself through this every single time? It just felt like it was for other people.
Tyrone?
For me, I knew that I was different, but how different? That I didn't know. I know that I come from very humble beginnings. My mother was basically my all in all because my father was not a part of my life. And so therefore I tend, because of my mother's wisdom, and I use that very openly and honestly, of making sure that there was a faith foundation for me, that I knew who God is, who God was, who God is, and what he will do, and that whole spiritual component. I'm very grateful for that being the foundation that my mother gave me. And as I matriculated through life and got to be a young man and being out of the house and on my own, I then became involved with my father, and I got to know him as a man. I couldn't accept him as being my daddy because I was good and grown. So we became a bonding relationship. I thank God for that. I thank God that I was able to look at him as the entity that impregnated my mother, and therefore the Creator gave me forth in its form of what it really is. And I'm grateful that I have had the walk of life that I've had in being an African American homosexual man. It has given me the opportunity to share life with my nieces, my nephews, their children, and now seeing the great-great-grand nieces and nephews. To seeing the component of family and how I sit in that. For that, to God be the glory, because I've been blessed. So many don't have the opportunity to regain relationships with family. And I thank God that has been a part of my life.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. This was a great conversation. And hopefully the audience will enjoy it and get something out of it. And I thank you all for listening. This has been The Conversation at Colors.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Make sure to give a thumbs up, and if you like what you see, subscribe for more content.